स्पर्धा परीक्षेच्या तयारीसाठी महाराष्ट्रातील सर्वोत्तम ऑनलाईन प्लॅटफॉर्म ज्ञानदीप अकॅडमी पुणे. महाराष्ट्रातील सर्वोत्कृष्ट शिक्षकांचे व्हिडिओ लेक्चर्स, PDF स्वरूपात नोट्स व प्रश्नपत्रिका उपलब्ध, तेही अगदी माफक फीसमध्ये. बॅच जॉईन करण्यासाठी आजच गुगल प्ले स्टोअरवरून ज्ञानदीप अकॅडमीचे ॲप डाउनलोड करा. अधिक माहितीसाठी संपर्क करा 95 11 28 04 65.
Hello everyone, welcome to Gnandeep Academy. So let us continue with our current affairs revision series. Today we will see the current affairs based on environment. So let's get started. Majorly we will be covering the national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, tiger conservation related issues, the wetlands and Ramsar sites, important species in news, and the important regulations, organizations and environmental initiatives which have been undertaken by the government and other institutions. Also some of the important reports related to environment. Mainly the questions are asked from these major topics. So we will try to cover whatever was in news and simultaneously the basics of it. So the first issue we will see is the Project Rehab. Now what is Project Rehab? The reducing elephant human attacks using bees. This is the full form of it. This is the logo of Project Rehab, and let us see more about it. So KVIC, that is Khadi and Village Industries Commission, has launched this project of creating bee fences to mitigate human elephant conflicts in the country. So what they will be doing, the KVIC, that they will for example create the boxes in which bees will be kept, which is also done in the apiaries. So this boxes will be connected to a string, and when the elephants come into contact in such an area, they will automatically get alarmed using the mechanism of this project, and it will shoo them away from the area. So what happens is that, as we know, human elephant conflicts are is a big problem because there is the habitations of human beings and elephants often tend to coincide, or the humans tend to invade the habitations of human, and it causes harm to both the human beings as well as elephants. So in order to thwart that, it is to thwart the elephant attacks in human habitations using honeybees. Also that this mechanism will not cause any harm to the elephants. It will only alarm them that there is bees present in this area and that they should not go. The elephants are very much scared or terrified with bees, because the bees enter their trunks and all, and it causes them a lot of pain. So this is how the elephants can be shooed away from the human habitations without causing them any harm. Now this is a submission of KVIC's National Honey Mission. So what is it? The Honey Mission, it is a program to increase the bee population, honey production and beekeepers' income by setting up apiaries. That is, apiaries means the place where bees are kept. Place where bees are kept. So Project Rehab uses bee boxes as a fence to prevent the attack of elephants. Now this is a pilot project, and it has been launched at 4 locations in Kodagu district of Karnataka in the March month. And where is it? In the Nagarhole National Park. So if asked, you can write that it is in the Nagarhole National Park and Tiger Reserve, where it is because it is known to have human elephant conflict zones. So that's a pilot basis in Nagarhole National Park of Karnataka. So this is the basic things you should know about the Project Rehab. Next let us see about the tiger conservation. So CATS, that is Conservation Assured Tiger Standards. CATS is tigers are also called as the big cats and all. So Conservation Assured Tiger Reserves is the full form of it. Now in this map we see that there are 13 TRCs, the tiger range countries. Most of them are in Southeast Asia, like we have India, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Myanmar, China, Vietnam, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Russia, Malaysia, Indonesia. All these countries you have to remember. These are called as the tiger range countries. Maximum number of tigers here are So we know that here we have 3200 wild tigers estimated in the TRCs itself, 3200 tigers. Now what is cats? So it is a criteria, it is a set of criteria which allows tiger sites to check if their management will lead to successful tiger conservation. So it is organized under seven pillars and all. So it is a criteria which allows tiger sites to check if their management will lead to successful. Basically it is a type of an accreditation. Look here, the accreditation given to the any countries or any say tiger reserves big for its good tiger governance. So in one line if you have to write what is CATS, you can write that it is an accreditation or a global recognition given to in the form of global recognition which is given for good tiger governance. Now this is the tagline of the project. The long term goal is to ensure safe havens for tigers. So basically this is the vision of CATS accreditation. Now it was developed as a in 2013 as a part of T into 2, which is the doubling of tigers by 2022. This was a target kept. Also that the tiger is an umbrella species. It is called an umbrella species. Why? Because just like an umbrella which protects whatever comes under it, so tigers behave as an umbrella in an ecosystem, protecting any kind of a wildlife that comes under the its the food chain. So which is why it is important, so that when we protect the umbrella itself, the other animals and species under it also get protected. So this was about cats. Now the 13 TRCs, as we saw, out of them only 4, that is Nepal, India, Bangladesh and Russia. These are the only 4 countries out of 13 who have registered and rolled out their own accreditation, while others are still in the process. So you have to remember these 4 countries which have their own registration of CATS accreditation. Now these 2 sites internationally, just remember the names if you can. Then the first global CATS consultation meeting was held in Bangkok, Thailand. Now the 14 tiger reserves in India, you have to by heart this just in case. So the 14 tiger reserves which have been given accreditation under the CATS are so there are 3 in Assam, there are 3 in Madhya Pradesh, 1 each in Maharashtra, Bihar, UP, West Bengal, Kerala and Karnataka, and there are 2 in Tamil Nadu, Mudumalai and Anamalai tiger reserve. So these are the very recent ones. We will see that later. It was in news, and about that we'll see later. But these 2, that is in Assam and Madhya Pradesh, these 2 states have the maximum number of CATS accredited tiger reserves. So by heart all these names. Now the next concept we have is the linear to circular economy. So what is it? So basically linear economy is, so it is a very easy concept which is related to ecological sustainability or productivity. Ecological sustainability or productivity. So now what it is? So linear economy, we know that for example, there's a product which is manufactured, say any consumption product, like since we are seeing the linear economy, let us take an example of SUPs, that is the single use plastics. Single use plastics. Now this product gets consumed, right, and then it goes through its own life cycle, but the final product of it is just waste. So this cannot be done anything further. So what happens is that this waste gets if it is not, we are not able to successfully, it is not say biodegradable or any, we are not able to manage this waste, it gets just piling up in the environment and it causes a lot of pollution. So this kind of an economical concept wherein a product is produced but its productivity or the final output of it is not sustainable. So this is a linear economy where one thing leads to consumption, maybe another thing, and then finally it just goes waste and no further thing can be done out of it. So this is a linear economy, the consumption process in which it goes in a linear fashion. Now circular economy, it is very easy, that one product, for example, gets consumed, then it maybe the whatever waste is produced, that can be recycled, or it can also be reused. So this is an important part of a circular economy, and then it gets converted to say other product, and then this again can be consumed and again can be reduced and reused, and this goes on in a circular fashion. So this is called as a circular economy. Just a concept which was in news regarding the ecological sustainability, so which is why we have covered it here. Now the Deep Ocean Mission. Next in news is the Deep Ocean Mission. So the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs, which is chaired by the Prime Minister. So you can also remember this fact from here, that CCEA is chaired by Prime Minister and not the Minister of Finance or anything. So it is chaired by the Prime Minister, and it has approved the proposal of Ministry of Earth Sciences on Deep Ocean Mission. So this mission is undertaken by which ministry? Ministry of Earth Sciences. And what is the main aim of it? It is to explore the deep ocean for resources and develop deep sea technologies for sustainable use of ocean resources. So we'll see more about it. So now remember roughly what is the mission cost, or the project cost of this is around 4,000 crore. So sometimes in the statement based questions they can ask you, they can maybe give you a number or the cost, saying this much is the amount estimated budget for this mission. So remember this amount, and this is for a period of 5 years. So this mission is going to be conducted over a period of 5 years in a phase wise manner, obviously. So some of these facts, then we'll see more about this mission. So what it is? It is to support the blue economy initiatives of the government of India. What is a blue economic initiative? So blue economy, as the name itself suggests, that it is about the water resources or say ocean resources or seas, anything, the resources which we obtain from the water bodies. So it will be the nodal Ministry of Earth Sciences will be the nodal ministry to implement this mission. Now also another thing is that the United Nations has declared the current decade, the present one, the 2021 to 2030, as the decade of ocean science for sustainable development, which is why this mission becomes all the more important for us to study. Now this consists of 6 major components. This may be helpful for your mains answer writing, or maybe just remember these 6 major components of the mission. That first one is mining, deep sea mining and manned submersible, that will be undertaken under the Deep Ocean Mission. Then development of ocean climate change advisory services. So the climate change services is another component. Then you have technological innovation to explore the biodiversity, obviously, because that is the most important part of the ocean resources, the living or the biological resources. It is important for us to conserve them while simultaneously looking for technologies to explore as well as conserve it, and that will be undertaken as one of the components of Deep Ocean Mission. Then we have the Deep Ocean Survey and Exploration. So we know that India has a long coastline of about 7,500 kilometers, and that we have been given exclusive rights by the International Seabed Authority, the ISA, to explore the hydrothermal sulfides beyond our exclusive economic zone. So here exclusive economic zone, so in the Indian Ocean. So now Deep Ocean Survey and Exploration will be undertaken in order to identify the potential sites of multi-metal hydrothermal sulfides mineralization along the mid-oceanic ridges in the Indian Ocean. So this is an extremely important part of the Deep Ocean Mission, or a component of it, because once we are able to do this, a lot of this can lead us to a lot of resources in terms of energy, like energy resources, and it can help us solve our energy crisis or import. So this is an important part of that. Then we have the energy and fresh water from the ocean, that is the studies and detailed engineering design for offshore ocean. So remember, this is the key word here, OTEC, that is ocean thermal energy conversion. So this is also an important part of it, so that we can convert the thermal energy of the water, uh, of the desalination plant will be constructed under the mission. Then you have advanced marine station for ocean biology. Now ocean biology, as we saw that, which includes marine biology, blue trade and blue manufacturing. That is, blue trade is the trade in the, or the import and export of the blue resources, that is anything which is derived from the ocean, and the blue manufacturing as well. So that is another part of it. So you can remember these keywords and what all this ocean envisages to do. Then we have next issue in news is the United Nations Decade on Ecosystem Restoration report. So this is a name of the report, and who has given it? It is given by the United Nations Environment Program along with the Food and Agriculture Organization of United Nations. So these both United Nations agencies has given this. Now what is it? The FAO, we know that it is located where? In Rome, right? So the United Nations Environment Program plus FAO have together given this report. So this you should by heart, because it can be asked that which of the organizations has come up with this report. Now what it is? This is for the decade of 2021 to 2030, and what is the aim of it? To meet the commitment, it will meet the commitment of restoring 1 billion hectares of land. So in order to restore 1 billion hectares of land is the global commitment for ecosystem restoration. So this is the main target of aim of it. Now according to this report, the world is facing triple threat. And what is that triple threat? Firstly, it is the climate change. Second, we have loss of nature, and third, pollution. So this is the triple threat which is faced by the environment currently, and according to which report? The UN Decade Ecosystem Restoration Report. This is the tagline of the report. The healthier our ecosystems are, the healthier the planet and its people. Now the implementation. There are 4 pathways according for this thing. How we are going to achieve the 1 billion hectares of land restoration. 1 billion hectares. So let us see what are the pathways in order to achieve it. First is to build a global movement. Obviously, if any global mission or anything which is related to environment has to be carried out on a global level, then it has to turn into a global movement, so that combined efforts make it more easy and hassle free to achieve it in a very time bound manner. So how is that going to be done? By facilitating collaboration and partnering with youth, etc., showcasing flagships and champions and all. So this will lay the post 2030 foundations. Basically, how? By building a global movement. Then we have second pathway, which is generating political support. Now what will that do? As we know that political roadblocks are created. So the roadblocks created by different nations because of their own geopolitics and other issues. Now, for example, we have the Paris Agreement. Paris Agreement on the climate change, or reducing the global warming temperatures. So this agreement in 2016 we had undertaken it, and how we know, the USA has been on and off about it because of their own political issues. So generating a political support is another important thing, which is the next pathway, so that all the countries can together come on a common platform and then make the mission successful. So next pathway we have is to build technical capacity. Now how is that going to be done? By deploying science and technology into the restoration process, and to catalyze and accelerate action on the ground. Obviously, because without technical capacity, it is impossible or a very difficult task to implement any kind of a thing, especially when it comes to restoring any environmental resource. So this is the third pathway, and the last one we have management arrangement, that is governance structures, funding, etc. Funding and all, it is very important, so that a proper economical setup is made by different countries, and a particular amount is set apart for the restoration of it. Okay, so that was about the report. The main things that you should be knowing about the report. Next thing we have in news is the NGT, that is the National Green Tribunal. Now, on and off, this tribunal is always in news because of the powers conferred onto it. We will see that in detail. So what it is, that it is a specialized body set up under the NGT Act of 2010. So it is a body which is set up by an act for effective and expeditious disposal of cases relating to environment protection and conservation of forests and other natural resources. So it is set up by an act, which means it is a statutory body, and then what it does is that it looks after the disposal of cases which are related to environment protection and conservation. So this is the in short function of it. Now the three countries only, that is Australia, New Zealand and India, are the only three countries which have their own specialized environmental tribunal. Also an important fact here, that India is the only or the first and the only developing country to have its own specialized environment protection tribunal. So this is a very unique fact about it, and the other two are obviously developed countries. Now, what is the mandate of NGT? The mandate is to make disposal of applications or appeals finally within six months of filing. So this fact again becomes important, that within 6 months of filing they will have to dispose of the environment protection related cases. Now it has 5 places of sitting, the New Delhi being the principal one, and the other 4 are Bhopal, Pune, Kolkata and Chennai. So New Delhi being the principal place of its sitting. Now next is, we will see why the NGT always comes into news is because of the powers related conflicts or disputes arising out of it. Basically the NGT is guided by the principles of natural justice. This is the main thing, or the main and a very very powerful the very significant power it has been conferred with. Now what is the principles of natural justice? It means that there should be no bias. Then we have that they should hear both the sides. The third one is that an adequate notice should be given to both the parties. So these are the 3 principles of natural justice. So whenever a decision is made, they should look into it that all the 3 are satisfied. Only based on that they should make. So these are the natural justice principle, that there should be no bias, then both the sides need to be heard, so that a just decision is made, and adequate notices to both the parties. So that is the principles of natural justice. Also an order, decision or award of tribunal is executable as a decree of a civil court. Now which also means that any decision which is given by NGT, so that is treated as a something which is given by a civil court itself. So that is a very big power, because otherwise any tribunals which are set up are not given the powers of the courts. So these 2 are very very important powers, and which is why it is a very important environmental body. Now an appeal against the order. So if any party is not satisfied with the order given by NGT, what they can do is that it lies directly to the Supreme Court. So they need to go directly to the Supreme Court, and generally within 90 days from the date of communication of such an order. So this fact also is important, that within 90 days they will have to go to the Supreme Court. Now these are the functions of NGT. Functions. So what it is? Relief, restitution and compensation. So it gives relief in cases of environmental related matters, restitution and compensation. Like for example, we have CAMPA, which is uh, like compensatory, for example, like if deforestation is done, then such proceeds will go to the Campa fund. Now such compensations are also given under by the NGT when there is environmental harm or damages caused. Now here let us see what it deals with. So it deals with the civil cases under the 7 laws related to environment, not the criminal cases like uh, killing of the species, protected species, but the civil cases under the 7 laws related to environment. So only these following 7 laws are covered. That is the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act, then the Water Cess Act, you have the Forest Conservation Act of 1980, the Air Act of 1981, the Environment Protection Act of 1986, then you have the PLI Act, that is the Public Liability Insurance Act of 1991, and the Biological Diversity Act of 2002. So remember all these 7 acts which are covered or which come under the purview of NGT. So you have to by heart this. Also from here you can remember the years in which these acts are passed. This may like in the very older papers of UPSC, they had asked that arranged the following acts in the year in which they were passed. So this is how they were passed, and this is the given sequence is also here, that first water this act came, then this one 77, 80, 81, 86, 91 and 2002. So these are the 7 acts. Now which other environmental acts the NGT does not cover are the very two important acts. That is, first is the Wildlife Protection Act. Wildlife Protection Act, and then we have the Indian Forest Act of 1927. Okay, so now the Forest Conservation Act of 1980 is covered, but the Indian Forest Act of 1927, what does it relate to? It relates to the tribal communities and all which their produce and livelihood in the forest. Now that is not covered under NGT. So this again creates loopholes, because these are also very two important acts against which the cases cannot go to the NGT. So it is in a way biased thing when the cases come under these acts, the Indian Forest Act and the Wildlife Protection Act. So remember that these two are not covered. These two are not covered by NGT. Okay, so that was about some of the important topics and organizations. Let us see about some of the environment reports in news this year. Now the point of covering some of these reports is because that some of these are obvious ones, like you can look at the name and the options given and you will be able to come to the right answer, but some are confusing ones. Now let us see. The World Energy Outlook is given by an International Energy Agency. So here you can see that both these words, it is easy for you to understand that IEA will give this report. Just in case you don't know, you can look at the options and figure this out. But look at these other reports. For example, Global Futures Report. Now this is given by Worldwide Fund for Nature, WWF, and Global Fund. It's not. You may not. It's okay if you don't remember this. Just remember that it is given by WWF. Now Global Futures Report is given by WWF. So remember this one. Then the third is the ocean deoxygenation, everyone's problem. This is a report which has been given by IUCN, that is the National Union on Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. So again, not any body related to oceans or not any International Seabed Authority or anything, none of those have given it. This is given by the IUCN, Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. So this can also be confusing one. Next we have the Global Climate Risk Report, is given by German Watch. This is also important one. Next is the Nature Risk Rising Report. Nature Risk Rising Report. Now again this is also confusing because it is given by World Economic Forum. Now this is not an organization related to environment. This is an economic forum. So in the options you can get confused. So remember that it is given by WEF. The Nature Risk Rising, maybe it relates to the economic risks which are caused by the harm caused to the environment. So it is given by WEF. Then you have this one. This is easy to remember because in the name itself this comes, and in the option also you can see. Now you have the global climate report is given by World Meteorological Organization, which looks after the climate related, or which looks after the climate related services of the globe. So global climate report is given by WMO. Then we have climate change and land. This is given by IPCC. So this is also easy because IPCC is a panel which looks after the issues of climate change, and so it is easy to see this. So these 4 reports are confusing, which you can remember. Next we have the World Air Quality Report. So this is given by Pollution Tracker, IQ Air and Greenpeace. Now these 3 are some of the facts that you can remember, like Bangladesh, according to this report, which is given by Greenpeace. Bangladesh is the most polluted country. India is the 5th most polluted country. And 21 out of 30 most polluted countries are in India. So that is like the more than like 90% of that is in India. 21 out of 30 is a big number. Out of the most polluted countries are located in India, which is why this report, and which is why the issue of air pollution itself becomes all the more important because of such facts. So this report is given by Greenpeace. Next we have Global Environment Outlook is United Nations Environment Program gives it. Then Emission Gap Report is given by United Nations Environment Program again. Then we have World Climate and Security Report is given by International Military Council on Climate and Security. Now the name has both the names has this climate and security keyword, but maybe sometimes the tricky options can be asked which also have the similar keyword. So these reports, so the point of covering these reports, environment reports, is that it is if you don't know the exact answer, so you can just directly skip but not take any blind guesses, because it can be confusing. Some of the organizations have names which are not related to the reports that they give. So remember these important reports in the environment section. So we will continue this in the next session on environment. Thank you.
स्पर्धा परीक्षेच्या तयारीसाठी महाराष्ट्रातील सर्वोत्तम ऑनलाईन प्लॅटफॉर्म ज्ञानदीप अकॅडमी पुणे. महाराष्ट्रातील सर्वोत्कृष्ट शिक्षकांचे व्हिडिओ लेक्चर्स, PDF स्वरूपात नोट्स व प्रश्नपत्रिका उपलब्ध, तेही अगदी माफक फीसमध्ये. बॅच जॉईन करण्यासाठी आजच गुगल प्ले स्टोअरवरून ज्ञानदीप अकॅडमीचे ॲप डाउनलोड करा. अधिक माहितीसाठी संपर्क करा 95 11 28 04 65.